Hey everyone! You know, Kidder Music Service is one of the greatest assets to our school district. From providing day-to-day materials like reeds and valve oil to purchasing pieces of sound and instrumental equipment, there isn't anything they can't do. Kidder Music Service helps our students sound the best they can each and every day, and we are proud to call them a Music in the Making sponsor. If you are looking for similar materials for your school, don't hesitate to call and ask for assistance and mention us, Music in the Making, today. Their number is 309-692-4040, or visit kiddermusic.com, that's Kidder music.com today for all your music classroom needs. And now, on to the podcast. Welcome to Music in the Making.
That's illegal.
I want to be with you everywhere. A Halloween party. Oh, that's fun. Let's talk about work.
That's not what I said. Well, and I like Stanridge, so it's like I kind of.
Oh, you guys are friends?
Yeah,
You guys
I talked
are
to.
friends?
Yeah, we talked
to him last week.
a whole 5 minutes at Midwest last year. We are 3 high school and junior high music teachers from West Central Illinois.
And someone had to go to the bathroom during intermission and missed it. And that someone is me.
Yeah! Each week we will talk about our experiences in the classroom, community, and personal lives too. Please welcome your hosts, Lisa Hallen.
We say move all this stuff down there, and then it gets moved, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, why have we moved that from there to there to there? Stop recording.
Art Martinez, happy Friday if it's not a Friday, or Saturday or Sunday, or if you're Lisa, it's a week later. And Kevin Ferry.
Oh, what you're talking about.
During class. At my school.
Shout out.
At some point, one of us are going to say, hey, if you missed anything,
you bring a bag of reeds,
go to Spotify or wherever you get your podcast.
Yeah.
Give us a follow.
Go to Music in the Making and you can get all the pearls of wisdom.
I wanted to say that too, like,
You don't
ask
even
your
know you
host
have
if
this.
something
This is Dr. and Mrs. Martinez. Shout out Hannah.
All the time. I think we've even shouted out you before.
Actually?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we might have.
Things are loose over here. We'll see what happens.
Did we talk about our student teachers and block teachers?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So for the open production, we'll just do this one.
It is so great to see an almost
Just give it right to Art
full
to
house
start.
today.
Or it has to be
Here
a good
for
question.
our
There we are.
session of
We can
using
just
Solo
jump in
and
whenever, keep it
Ensemble
loose. I'll try to
to
keep
build
it
your
going.
music program.
Did you hit record?
My name is Mr. Phil Whaley. I serve as the District 2 Senior Band Representative. And I get the honor of presiding over this session that features a lot of our District 2 teachers. My hand already. Stephen Olson will be the main moderator, but we also have panelists Alex Binnick, Kevin Ferry, Curtis Fisher-Oschlager,
Mr. President.
Lisa Fornoff. I have to say Fornoff, I know her main name because she was my former student. Art Martinez, and Megan Olson, and of course Stephen. I do have to give the typical spiel that you will need to hear, and I'm sorry if you've heard this multiple times already. At this year's conference, your attendance and professional development credit will be verified by digitally scanning your conference name badge at the conclusion of each session. If you leave without having your badge scanned, there will be no way for you to obtain professional development hours for this session. So please be sure to see me at the end of the session. I will be located at the entrance at the back of the room. So if you don't need to get your scan, you can go out this door, but if you want to get a scan, please head to the back of the room. Also, at the end of the conference experience, there's no need to check out. You will receive a digital survey to the email you used when you registered. Upon completion of that survey, you will receive an email including verification of your professional learning hours. Okay. Let's please welcome our panel and their moderator, Stephen Olson.
Welcome back to another episode of Music in the Making.
We'll sit. We don't need to stand and talk. I'm just going to stand.
Welcome everybody, so glad to see you here. I'm just going to stand for this part, and otherwise we're going to go ahead and sit. We're excited to just kind of share some things that have worked for us in our programs about solo and ensemble. We've got the directors you see here. We all know each other because we're from the same neck of the woods, but we teach a variety of levels, and we each approach solo and ensemble a different way, so we hope we bring you some useful stuff. I know that every presenter says this, but we mean it. If you think of a question, please stop us. We're probably going to interrupt each other and buzz in on each other as well. So please stop us if you think of something you'd like to hear more about, because our goal is to give you something you can take away to your programs or for the future educators in here for you to jot down for the future. So we're going to go ahead and introduce the panel. Phil introduced us real quick. There's a slide for that. There you go. Hey, there it is. So again, my name is Stephen Olson, and I teach in Princeton, Illinois, and I teach 6th grade through 12th grade band, and we're going to pass the mic and introduce our folks.
Hi, I'm Megan Olson, and I also teach in Princeton. I am junior high choir, so 6, 7, 8 choir, and 5th grade band, and a little bit of general music.
Hello, I'm Alex Bennick. I teach in Kewanee, Illinois. I teach with the Kewanee High School Band, and then I help out with 5th and 6th grade lessons.
I am Curtis Fisher-Oschlager. I am at Rockridge Junior and Senior High Schools. I teach 6 through 12 choir, and I'm currently the IMEC State.
Hello, Lisa Fornoff. I do 5th grade band and 6th grade band, as well as high school band at Monmouth Roseville.
Hello, Art Martinez. I'm also at Monmouth Roseville. I'm the 7-12 band director. I also teach piano class as well.
Hello. Oh, yeah. All right. My name is Kevin Ferry. I am the 7 through 12 choir director at Monmouth Roseville High School.
All right, we're going to get faster at that, I promise. Okay. So then I just wanted to give a little context before we get going, because I think we've all been to a session and you've heard folks talking and you said, okay, that's great for you, but the school you teach at has 2,000 students and 4 music teachers. Or conversely, you might say at this one, that's great for us up here, but I teach at a school with 100 students and I teach K-12. And so we have a specific context in our schools. We teach at fairly similar schools. And so I want you to just be thinking about that as we share what works for us and kind of mentally adapt that to what works for your school or perhaps your future school. So we teach in the kind of western and northwestern part of the state, District 2. Princeton, Monmouth, Rockridge, and Kewanee are all schools that are reasonably similar in size. I put our high school enrollments up there just for a bit of context. We're all, rural or fairly rural schools. What? Oh, and Kewanee has a half student. We don't know how to do but IHSA says it, so it must be true. And so, again, those are the sizes of schools we come from. We teach similar music programs. As you heard, we all wear multiple hats. Nobody here just teaches high school band. Nobody here just teaches high school choir. And so that's kind of where we are coming from as we go. And then when we talk about solo and ensemble, it's not the only way to do it. There are many ways to do solo and ensemble, but for us, we all participate in the state IHSA and IESA solo and ensemble festivals. So some of the stuff we talk about is going to be informed by that. Again, it's not the only way to do solo and ensemble. So just have that in mind as we go, which is what I just said. And then again, we're just hoping to share with you some stuff you can take away. Some of this will not be applicable to you, but we hope that there are things that will be as we go. And please interrupt us. So let's get going. So first, we'll do just a little bit of some philosophical stuff before we get into some nuts and bolts. And kind of a couple of us are going to talk about why we do solo and ensemble. What's the purpose? And Art's going to get us started on that.
Thank you. Okay, so I generally think I have this 3 main points that I came up with for this question. The first one was provide a platform of assessment. A lot of times I think when we hear assessment, we think test, quiz, playing test. You could go that route, but honestly for us, I think it's an assessment of like what our kids know and what they don't know, and or what we really want them to know. Sometimes we get stuck in the mindset of full ensemble, when it's really easy for a student to kind of get wrapped up in like having multiple clarinets or multiple of one instrument, right? We don't really know if they know it, and solo ensemble is really a great tool to see if they actually know it or not. So for us, we use it as an assessment for the individual and the small group. So like small duets, trios, quartets, right? Before we get to like some of the larger ensembles. So if you're kind of like, I really want to know what my students don't know, solo ensemble is a great tool because it really gets down to who knows what. And then it would lead you to some other things like eventually providing an opportunity for individual growth. So when we're talking about solos, the individual growth might not be necessarily the notes and rhythms. It could also be the self-confidence as a player to be able to prepare in that kind of medium, right? For your seniors who are preparing for college, juniors even, for preparing college auditions, have them do solo ensemble, because it's gonna be that way. They're gonna be sitting in front of someone who's going to judge them on their performance, and if they have that, that's a really positive experience. And on top of that, it's also a way to collaborate. So for students who genuinely like each other to play music together, why not? You know, they might do it in the large ensemble, but for them to do it as a duet or a trio might be something that they look forward to every year, and a lot of our kids do. It also is a means of differentiated instruction. So if we're like, I have my kids who all they do is just live in the band room, have them do solo ensemble then, if they're not already doing it. Because they're going to open that door of all the different types of solos. If they have an instrument like saxophone where they want to have an opportunity to play all the different saxophones, just to have that experience, this is a way to do that. And if you have students who just need a little bit of instruction on a certain note, or certain rhythm, or a certain range of their instrument, this is the time to provide them pieces of music that would help them do that. And then finally, it's a way to promote a culture of positive competitiveness. At Monmouth Roseville, we take solo ensemble very seriously, as in, we were state champs twice in a row in our class within the last 3 years. The kids take it seriously because we take it seriously, but we prepare them in a way that allows them to succeed, and because they can see that success going forward, they're like, okay, I get it, I know what's expected of them. We'll touch a little bit as we go on going forward, but for the junior high, my expectation for solo ensemble is everyone does something. I encourage them to just kind of choose whatever that something is. It doesn't have to be a solo. And then as they go forward in the process, and then they eventually get to high school, they already know how to do solo ensemble. So now it's just a matter of saying, okay, now you're doing this solo, now you're doing these events, and then they already get it. And then it kind of feeds into that competitive nature that we have set up at the high school. So so that's my point of view. Alex, next, I believe.
Yeah, when I think about the purpose of solo and ensemble, I really, again, think 3 main points, and I agree with a lot of what Art's saying there. The first one for me is that I tell my students every year that solo and ensemble is the single biggest driver of individual growth. We in Kewanee, we have one band, and everybody's in the band, and so there are kids who certainly kind of skate by, slip through the cracks. There are kids who are bored, and no matter what, though, when they have to do a solo or they're doing a duet, there's nobody there who can bail them out. They have to do it for themselves. And it drives them to get better, and they do get better through the process. I see the biggest bang for the buck there. And then number 2 is, like he was talking about with accountability and assessment, you really get to just keep tabs on every single kid and kind of know where they are, and you don't have that opportunity in the ensemble rehearsal every single day. And then number 3 for me, and maybe is a little cheesy, is tradition. Kewanee's been doing solo and ensemble for 60 some odd years, maybe more. It seems like almost a rite of passage in the school music experience. I have kids whose parents and grandparents talked about when they played in solo and ensemble. It's just an important part of the high school music process and elementary, and the pressure, the tears, and the accompaniment for rehearsals, and all of it. It's just kind of one of those rites of passage.
Anybody have anything they want to share on purpose stuff? Okay, great.
So we're going to move ahead to talking a little bit in our programs, and we're going to have at least somebody from each school briefly talk about how it's built into our programs and how this is incorporated. And you're going to hear this is very different from place to place. And again, compare this to your own teaching contest. And Mr. President is going to start us off.
At Rockridge Junior and Senior High School, I'm going to start with the junior high because we kind of build from 6th grade through the high school. In 6th grade, first off, we take January and February, and that is our curriculum for those 2 months. That is what we do in class, and we take the class time to do this, and every student is participating. So in 6th grade, we teach the entire choir several different songs, and then I break them into choirs. Choirs for contest would be ensembles of 9 to 20. An ensemble then is 2 to 8, and then you have your solo. So we then split them into the different choirs, but they've learned them as the full choir, and then we can also use those on concerts. Then when they get into 7th and 8th grade, we add the possibility of doing solos as well, and then we continue with the choirs. And then when we get to high school, the expectation is that every student is doing 3 entries. They can pick between solos and duets. And then in addition to that, we are doing bass, treble, and mixed choirs with the students that we are preparing in class as well. I do have individuals that come in and help me with this. It's part of the providing accompaniments that come in and work with the kids every day. My accompanist works with them, my student teacher, myself. So we have lots of people working with them every day, and they're expected to be prepared and memorized by the time we get to the performance in March.
Yeah, so at Kewanee High School, we do it maybe a little differently. We're still preparing for a large ensemble concert in March as well. So we really take solos sort of on an individual basis outside of the classroom. So every single student in our band, we have about 70 right now, is given a solo at the start of January. And I love it because you really get to individualize it for each kid. We have people who have played in the All-State Band, and we have people who literally just joined band a few weeks ago. And so we get to target them and give them something appropriate. And then we have a series of Google Classroom assignments where students have to submit recordings every week. They kind of chunk out their solo into like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. And every Friday, in fact, tomorrow, the first video is due. And they all have to upload those to Google Classroom. It is a bit time consuming to go through and listen to all those, but it is really, really great to get that feedback to the kids. And then we also have an advisory period, and my co-band director and I are available after school to help kids one-on-one. And then with ensembles, we've all seen a lot of kind of the flex ensemble books. There's some 3-part ones, some 4-part ones, some 2-part ones. Every kid in our program has access to copies of those, and we use those as our warm-ups for concert and rehearsal. So we'll do a couple of ensembles. We'll kind of split up. Okay, this half of the room played part A, this part played part B, and we just use those as our warm-ups this time of year, and then we dive into our concert rep from there.
Alex, do you have anything you can add about the junior high, how it's structured, even though it's not your?
Yeah, I would say junior high is, and I'm not teaching junior high right now, but in the past it's strictly voluntary. Usually they're very eager to participate. So in 6th grade, like Curtis was saying, we'll have a lot of ensembles, groups of like 6, 7, 8 girls who happen to be friends from volleyball just go play a thing together. And then once we get to junior high, we'll have more access to solos. Kids are coming in before school, after school, during their enrichment time to work on those. But it isn't really worked into the curriculum at all at our junior high.
Thank you. I know how to use a microphone. Anyway, at Monmouth Roseville with the junior high level, we are very fortunate that we have a part-time staff member that is a retired music teacher that comes in and does lessons. And every kid isn't required, but every kid works in January and February on a solo to take. So it's that individual basis that they get to work on their individual voice for 2 months. Well, actually, junior high contest is like the end of March or something. So 3 months of working on their individual voice. So it's always important to us that at the junior high level, they are all going through the process of learning how to rehearse a solo. For me at the junior high level, they obviously aren't required to take it, but it's so important that they learn how to hand the score to a judge. Like, how do you walk into the room, hand the score to the judge? It's just going through the process of standing up in front of people and performing. So that's our emphasis at the junior high level. We also, we have the ensembles and the choirs and things like that. But for me, it's just the process of going through. So when they become freshmen in high school, they're ready to go. At the high school level, it is a part of our curriculum. On Monday, we will have, like Curtis has, we are done with choir. It is solo and ensemble, and we are very fortunate to have several accompanists that come in, and we have literally a church across the street that has like 5 pianos in it. And so these accompanists will be in their rooms. One's in a chapel, one's in the sanctuary, one's in a Sunday school room. And the kids they meet with me, we take attendance, and over they go. And they work for 5 weeks during class to get ready for their solos, their duets, and their larger choirs for solo and ensemble. So that's kind of the process, but we think it's very, very important to work on that individual voice for 5 weeks. My favorite day of choir, this year it will be March 11th. So contest is March 8th. On the 10th, we hand out all their adjudication forms. and talk about how the contest day went. But then March 11th is our first day back of singing after 5 weeks of individualized attention on their voice. And our choir sounds so much better. They have so much more confidence, like everybody's alluded to, that confidence builder, because they are all they're all accountable for their own part. Because we don't do trios or quartets or any double duets. Any of that's it's you're doing a duet, so it's soprano alto, and you have to know your part. And we think that that's very, very important, that they have to take care of their part. And then again, like I say, March 11th will be my favorite day of choir because it will be exponentially, exponentially, I said that word. It is a big word. Exponentially better. So that's kind of what we do at Monmouth Roseville.
How often do you have rehearsal per week?
For Solo and Ensemble?
Or just,
every day. We have class every day.
Every day.
Yeah, we're 5 days a week at the high school. Junior high, our junior high is a little different. I think a lot of people might have this. Like full band is Monday, Wednesday, every other Friday, and then choir is Tuesday, Thursday, every other Friday. But we get 1 or 2 Mondays and Fridays off a month for holidays and whatever. So it's kind of hit and miss, and we're kind of lucky at what we get. Thank you for
jump between the rooms then? If you have 5 different rooms going on with these accompaniments, like how are you going to do
He jumps, yeah.
I do jump. I jump very high. Thank you, Stephen.
That's the football coach right there.
I have found, yes, I have done that, but there are times where when I walk into a room with our kids, they get really nervous. Like, you're the expert in the room, and like they're working with these accompanists, and when I walk in, they freeze up a little bit. I haven't seen a solo and ensemble event in years, other than my daughter. We host a lot, and a lot of kids don't want me to go watch them. But I get to see their adjudication forms, I get to see their results, and through that I can say, hey, you did a really nice job, or at least this judge thought you did a really nice job. But I get feedback from the accompanists. We talk back and forth a lot about, one of our accompanists is Carolyn Keller, longtime Galesburg High School music director. Shout out, Carolyn Keller. But she will email me every day. This kid did great, or I think we need to switch this kid's song. And the people that we have doing it, we have that conversation daily. But yes, I try very hard to get around and see as much as I can during the rehearsal process for sure. But there are certain kids that I know, if I hear as I walk by the room and it's Art singing his song, Art doesn't want me in that room to listen because it just makes him nervous. But yeah, I try to jump around as much as I can. Thank you for the question.
Thanks.
All right.
So for band at Monmouth Roseville, we also choose to use our class time at the high school in January and February, and we give them individual practice days. We spread out between our auditorium, our band room, our piano room, and they have their music, they're practicing individually. It is very loud, it is chaotic, it is what it is, and we're just floating around listening and helping. We do take a couple days to still meet as our concert band to work on org music and just give them a kind of change of scenery from the individual practice days, but that we use our band class time in January and February for that. For our 5th and 6th graders, our beginners, I handpick the 5th graders who are exceeding, who are ready to take a solo, who need the challenge, and I invite them to. In 6th grade, we open it up. Some of you did this last year. Who wants to try this year? And that's kind of, we rehearse with them when we can. Sometimes we have accompanists out in the hallway and we're pulling kids out of full band rehearsal to do that. Sometimes it's in our pull-out lesson schedule. We give them the music. A lot of it's going to be on their own, and we're just practicing with them when we can. And then Art's going to talk about junior high setup.
Yeah, I already kind of hinted at this, so this will be brief. So for the junior high, I'm in communication with Lisa as they're coming in to see me in 7th and 8th grade. One of the big things I try to encourage is, again, I said this before, everyone just does something. Like, even if it's like, last year I did a solo, I didn't like it, I want to do something else. Fine, let's try something else, see what fits with you, whether it be a duet or trio. I've been trying to actually push for the choirs. So for IESA, they allow 6 people to be a choir, instrumental choir. So I'll just pass out a flex band piece and be like, hey, you're all playing 4 parts, and we're all going to have a couple people doubling up, and then it's going to sound like an actual piece of music. So really, really cool. Shout out to Madeline in her last presentation, because I'm going to be doing probably that for next year. But one thing I wanted to say also is we have these quoted legacy ensembles. Lisa says, hey, the sax trumpet duet was amazing. Keep them together. And I'm going to do that. I'm like, okay. Keep them together, they want to be together, and going forward, and even into high school we have some of these people who've been doing duets and trios since they were in 5th and 6th grade, which is crazy, but we want that, we encourage that. They want to play it, fine, we're going to find a good piece of music to do that, so, yeah.
Question?
How much, how do you form your ensembles? Do you let the kids choose who they want to play with?
No. I don't. I rate. Like, I rate them, like, within one choir, like, we have a audition choir with 20, 5, 5, 5, and 5. Oh, sorry, yeah, 5, 5, 5. I thought it was loud enough.
No,
it
was pretty loud.
It was.
I'm a pretty loud guy. So, my number 1 soprano, my number 1 alto, that's a duet. My number 1 tenor, my number 1 bass, that's a duet. And then my number 1 soprano, my number 1 tenor, that's a duet. My number 1 alto, my number 1 bass, that's a duet. So out of those 4 kids, you get 4 solos and 4 ensembles that are going to be pretty darn good. So that's how I do that. I do get some pushback every now and again for that, but it's been so ingrained that they get it, and they're like, I understand why I'm with this person or why I'm not with this person. We have a couple of times where kids are like, oh, but I want to sing with my friend. I'm like, not for this purpose. We're trying to make the best experience for everybody at all times, and it's putting those top kids together so those top kids can look at the superior rating or the possible perfect score or the possible best of the day, that kind of stuff, and it's advantageous and more beneficial to those top kids. It's differentiated instruction, like Art was saying, this is the level of music I can give them because they are our top kids.
If that was a band question, I'd say a couple things. One, if you've never done solo ensemble before, let them do what they want to do. Of course, you need to be there and encourage them, saying like, I think that solo's a little too easy for you. I think you can do better. But let them do what they want. And then as the process goes on, if you're like, hey, we're getting really good at this. Wow, we're up to 5 people. Oh, now we're up to 14 next year. Then you can start to shape it into what we're experiencing, which is a little bit that positive competitiveness, right? I'll say for Mount Roseville at the high school level, this year we are actually taking what Kevin just described as the approach, because we are interested in seeing how that is. And so far, we're actually very surprised that like there are people who never would have probably played together unless we said so, and they're making some awesome music from it. So I think there's a couple ways to slice it. So if you're new to the game, I'd say just let them do what they want to do. And you help facilitate as best you can, but then depending on the direction you want to go, if you want it to be only people who want to do it, great. If you want everyone to do it at some point, then you can work towards that. It doesn't have to be something immediate. Anything else? Oh, one more question? Yeah.
When we're talking about building a solo ensemble into a program, how do we balance like pep band and solo ensemble?
Okay, well, I can answer that because we're still doing pep band right now. For Mama Roseville, we actually technically look at pep band music in December, and then I make sure the music is enjoyable enough that everyone knows how it goes, so that we never really have to look at it again. For some people, I know they're like, I love pep band over jazz band over concert band. That's great. You know, you make sure that goes through. For me, it's just with the other concentrations we want our students to get better at. Solo and ensemble actually might help your pep band. You know why? Because pop tune rhythms suck. They're hard. And Solo and Ensemble will actually help them play harder music. And like Kevin says, that reverse rehearsal after Solo and Ensemble, it's like a brand new ensemble. I'm like, who the heck? Where were you guys in August on the marching band field? When it comes to like working in Solo and Ensemble, if you've never done it before, just allow, like, just try to find people, like, how who wants to do it, and then go from there. And then for your other commitments, just, start to fit it in. Okay, we gotta keep moving on, sorry. Oh, another question, sorry, in the back.
I can go for that.
Go ahead.
No, you're good.
It's for Alex. My question is, you said you have all 70 of your kids do a solo?
So all 70 of our kids get a solo in class. They don't all take it to contest. So like, I have a trumpet player who started in January, and we gave him like a 5th grade beginner band kind of solo. He's not going to play that solo ensemble, but he does do his Google Classroom assignments, and he's expected to like fulfill the curriculum requirements there.
You should go first.
We're much more hippy-dippy and low stress.
Cool, man. Cool.
So in Princeton, solo ensemble is completely extracurricular for us. We don't really embed it into our school day. At the junior high, I'm choir, just a reminder, so I see my kids twice a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays for 42 minutes. And we're still prepping for a concert in March. So the way that we kind of structure that, it's open to whoever wants to do it. We present it as optional, but I think what gets our kids most excited is we tell them we can pick music tailored to them, and that they get a say in a little bit. So I always offer my kids a choice of music, and then they buy into it. So like, oh, I picked this one's mine. So I feel like that's important for us. And then after that, what we do after they've met with me to choose their songs, we do a sign-up sheet, and I tell them they have to meet with me at least 3 times before the day of, either before school and after school. There's a little bit of flex time at the end of our days that we open up to them too. But other than that, we really try to build some responsibility in them to learn the music. We're pretty upfront with that, that if they're not willing to put some time in, then they may not have that as ready as they'd like it to be. And that's pretty much our setup there for that. In terms of accompanists, we do have a couple. I accompany most of my kids actually, but then the people we bring in, they get 1 practice, maybe 2 with the accompanist if it didn't go well the first time. But we're pretty limited on their contact time with accompanists.
And band is similar. Again, it's optional junior high and high school. We played with it the high school for band in Princeton with doing more structure into the day, and it just wasn't having the results we wanted, and so we changed it a little bit. And so it is before and after and in flex time, but we're still getting lots of students to participate. I think it's because I talk about it a lot. In 6th grade, we learn a solo together. I pick a flexible solo and we all learn it, and then I get the piano out and I can play like 6 notes. So I plonk out a bass line, they all play it, and I say, congrats, you learned a solo. You can go do the thing now. And then a couple kids do it. I say, hey, who wants to play a song with their friends? Ooh, me. Okay, great, you get to do it. And then that's the start. And then if they have a successful experience, it continues. So we have really good participation through it being extracurricular because it gets talked about and because we have, it's been built in. I've been at Princeton 9 years now, and there was none of that when I started, and it's slowly becoming more and more. So, maybe half of our students participate, but that's still awesome. That's half of our kids getting better with solos and small groups. Okay, we're gonna pick up the pace for the rest of our questions. Yes.
I'm done for a while.
Okay, great. All right. And we're gonna move into some more nuts and bolts stuff here. Again, please keep interrupting us with questions, though. That's great, because that's gonna get you more out of this. So we're gonna talk a little bit about finding and selecting repertoire. I got the mic on this end, so I'm gonna start and then pass it to Kevin, or he'll just football coach it and string it and see what happens. In terms of finding and selecting repertoire, Megan alluded to, she provides, sorry, I'll let you talk for your own. Yeah. So we provide choices of music for our students. I think that everyone on the band side of the table over here is big on flexible solos and ensembles. So if you got the handout, the second page, both sides has some repertoire that we use. One side is instrumental stuff, one side is vocal stuff. If we ran out, they were at the table, so if we ran out, I apologize. I did 150, I hit the middle from the people who advised me. So, but in the instrumental side, especially for junior high, I love, and I think many of us love, the Standard of Excellence Festival solos because it is transposed for all instruments. It's the same material. The first book roughly correlates to the first method book of Standard of Excellence, but they're fairly similar side to side. And then the second book roughly correlates to the second method book. And then they also have a snare drum book with some leveled snare drum solos. What's great about them is it is leveled. The first solo in the Festival Solos Book 1 is maybe 5 notes in it. Might even be only 4 notes. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then it progresses from there to the full octave, one solo at a time. So I just, at this point, I look at the kid and I'm like, what do I think they can do? I copy them 3 solos. I give them a middle, a little harder, a little easier. I say, here you go, play them at home, figure out what you like. If they pick the hard one, great. If they pick the easy one, fine, as long as they're successful. And then if they've done it before, then we advance them through that and I kind of assess them, like we were talking about the assessment piece earlier, as we go. And then I do that same process for solos and ensembles for all my students. I copy them choices, I let them pick. When it comes to ensembles, the Standard of Excellence Festival ensembles for easier and intermediate are also awesome. It's 3-part flexible music, but you can play it with 2 of the 3 parts, so you can really give that to just about anybody. And then for me, I think that most of my ensembles at the junior high, it's pretty much just like play with your friends, whatever. As they go forward, if they do play with the same instrument, I'm like, hey, I've got these cool duet books that are actually for 2 trumpets. And it works a little bit better, and they start to figure that out as they go if they're into that. And there's some listings there on the repertoire side, like the Voxman selected duet books. There's a Volume 1 is yellow, Volume 2 is brown. It's just, a lot of older transcription type repertoire, but it's lots and lots of choices. Again, I copy some pages and give them to them and go from there. And I have just stacks of what's worked for me. And at the high school, frankly, I just have it all on a big bookshelf. And if I have a kid that's self-motivated, I say, okay, James, there's the trumpet solo books. Go, have fun. And then they'll look for it and they'll find stuff too. So I think that just having a couple good books to start from makes the process a lot easier. So anything you wanted to add about your junior high choir one?
So while the mics are all tagging, they'll talk, there's books and stuff, there's solo books I use for choosing solos, but for ensembles in particular, I always encourage my kids to put together groups of 4 to 8, because especially at junior high, the less kids are singing, the harder it is. Because again, like they had mentioned, they're more responsible for their parts, and I feel like at junior high it's helpful to have a couple people there for solidarity. So I actually choose some of the things that I would program for my choirs that I think would fit for them. So don't be afraid to choose like octavos. I have a group that sings Andy Beck's Shooting Star every year because it works. There's a lot of unison singing with just little bits of harmony. So it's building that skill, but kind of slowly in a less scary way than some of the books that are made actually for duets where there's homophonic harmony throughout. And it just simplifies it a little bit. So octavos work for that too.
Thank you very much. So as far as repertoire goes, at the high school level, I sit down and pick every single solo, every single ensemble. I pick the music that they're going to do. And I stick with the art songs and arias because I feel like that's the best vehicle for me and for my kids to improve and get better. I know that we've strayed away from the IHSA stuff, but they now have 3 categories of solos, which are musical theater and jazz, which we implement a lot in our junior high. But then there's also, what's that, commercial and contemporary, is that what they call it? Yeah, so they have different categories there, but I stick with the art songs and arias. I pick that music out for them, and what's the tricky part for me is, when they're a senior and they're working on their 7th and 8th ensemble, have I already given them Gonna Be a Great Day? Have I already given them, whatever the song may be, All Night, All Day, have they already done it? That's kind of a trick, but I'm a huge nerd about this, and I've got spreadsheets upon spreadsheets that I have to go back and look at what they've done and make sure I don't pick it again. But one thing that I would encourage, I think we have, this year I think we have 55 to 60 solos that are going to contest. And I think a lot of people think, well, I need to find 55 or 60 different solos. And I encourage anybody, it's okay for 3 kids to take Car Romeo Ben. It's okay for Give a Man a Horse He Can Ride to be done by 2 or 3 different kids, because you're picking that music for different reasons for that kid. And I think people shy away from, well, I've got to find this many different solos, and I don't do that. If it warrants it, then you see the repertoire list. And probably a lot of us have. I probably have 50 or 60 solo books and 15 or 20 duet books. I use about 10 of them. It's the same stuff every year over and over again. And if anybody wants, one thing we did, especially during the pandemic, we have a recording of everybody's part for every duet and every solo, just their part. We have a recording of that, and we have a recording of every accompaniment of every song we've ever done at Solo and Ensemble contest. We have the recording, and we have an e-copy. We've scanned every single piece of music that we've done. I have zero problem sharing that. I've shared that with several people that, and then your work is done, right? And so we share that drive, we share that folder on Google Classroom, so the kids have no excuse that they can start practicing it as soon as we have picked their solo and or ensemble. So I'm sure some of us, I'm 48, and I remember learning my solo from a cassette tape that I had to rewind and push play and rewind, and oh crap, I hit the record button, so I lost a measure. But with the technology that we have now, and I will share that drive with anybody that wants to see me afterwards or shoot me an email. I will share the entire folder with you, and everything is there. So, but don't be scared to do that. When it comes to solo and ensemble and you have choirs, I don't try to kill kids. I know some people think I'm a Nazi when it comes to solo and ensemble, and I'm really intense about it. But I don't, what we're going to do for organizational contests, I will make a smaller group of, to make the choir of 45 now becomes a choir of 20 to do one of the songs that we're doing at organizational contests. So rather than double up or triple up different types of music that they do, we're going to do the same stuff. And it's honestly really nice to hear feedback at Solo and Ensemble from judges of a piece that you're going to do an organizational contest before you actually do it at organizational contest. Something you're not hearing, something you're missing, something that you've heard 1,000 times done wrong, so it sounds right. This is that little kick of, oh shoot, well we're not doing that dynamic exactly right, or that pronunciation of that word isn't exactly right. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that.
Any other brief notes from anybody else there? Okay. Thank you.
We're gonna, I think, for the purpose to get to some more nuts and bolts stuff, we're gonna slide ahead and we'll come back to any buy-in stuff if we have time to do that. I think that's been aggressive. We're gonna go to the preparation process. Can you put us ahead to guiding the preparation process? We're gonna talk about how we guide the preparation process for students for Solo and Ensemble. And again, it all feeds into each other, but Megan's gonna start that.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to a little bit of this earlier, but in terms of preparation for us, again, I help choose music, and I think that gives them the biggest, they're most excited to start preparing it because they've picked it, it's their song, and they're ready to do it. They sign up to work with me in 15-minute to 20-minute time chunks. Again, air quotes require, it's extracurricular. I encourage them to meet with me at least 3 times before. If they haven't, I will hunt them down and watch them take a time, and then on the other end of that, there's kids who are going to sign up for every single day, and I might encourage them to not sign up for that to allow others. But most of our preparation is, again, that before and after school time, and just really that one-on-one time or the small group time to work on that. Sometimes if I have groups who are singing the same ensemble, I might meet with both of them at the same time, because that kind of lets them work together and does 2 things at once, which can be helpful too.
I'll chime in while I'm on this side, and then we'll just go across that way.
A couple of things that I think are important with the prep process, again, because we're mostly doing it outside of school and more individual time, is I try to incorporate teaching a couple practice strategies in, because the kids have no clue how to practice unless you teach them how to practice. I'll also add for everybody here, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that none of us are in a program where there is a lot of students taking private lessons.
Correct.
We may have some, a couple, either because there are no teachers, or the culture's not there, or the money's not there, or any combination thereof. So we're basing all this on we're the ones teaching it to them, and if we ain't teaching it to them, it's not getting taught. So we want to change that, but it's hard. So some things that I like to talk about with my students is I like to take a solo when they first take it and kind of mark it up with rehearsal markings, like a band piece. Is I'll be like, all right, here's 8 bars, this is letter A. Here's 8 bars, this is letter B. And I'll say, hey, bud, you realize you don't have to start at measure 1 every time you practice the song, right? That is new information to many of your students. And I talk about, if it's a more advanced student or a more difficult solo, I might say, okay, let's put a met marking on each chunk of the solo. You can only play this 16th note part at 60. You can't do that at full tempo yet. You got to work that at this speed and give them the tools to, I'm a big metronome guy anyway, so they're used to talking in terms of metronome markings with me. Trying to give them the tools to work on it by themselves in an organized way instead of a disorganized way. Another thing I like to talk about with an ensemble is the same thing. Guys, don't just try to play the whole song every time. Play 2 measures at a time. Play 4 measures at a time. One person can sit out and clap a beat while the other 2 play if you have a group of more than 2. Practice with a metronome, etc. Just trying to give them some of those practice strategies, because even if they take a lot of time, and there's students who will, they don't really know how to do it unless you're teaching it to them.
Yeah, I already touched a little bit on this with our Google Classroom playing tests, but we'll also have every student's expected to go online and find a quality reference recording, submit that link on Google Classroom, and then in class, so each kid will have 2 copies of their solo. One they're expected to write all over, and the other stays pretty clean. And in class, let's say we'll do a quick little conversation about key signatures. I'll say, all right, everyone take out your solo, take your pencil, circle your key signatures. Or we'll do that about accidentals, or we'll say, okay, go ahead and highlight your dynamics. So we'll take 2 minutes in class, give a quick little minute, because like I said, I have kids who've been all-state band, I have absolute beginners, all in the same classroom. So teaching dynamics is something I have to do every single semester. I can't just assume they know those things. And so we'll have every kid take out your solo, circle X, Y, and Z. That'll just take 2 minutes, a couple times a week through the process. And then again, we pace them with Google Classroom playing tests.
Me again? Okay. The one thing that I wanted to talk about, and it's kind of as far as the preparation goes, we talk about accompanist, right? And when we were doing this, we actually sat on a Zoom meeting last Saturday and did this in front of ourselves. And Steve made the comment that it seems like everybody in Warren County plays a piano and wants to help Monmouth Roseville Solo and Ensemble contest. But one thing I would encourage is just ask. Find those. I've got church pianists that come in and play for our kids. I've got retired music teachers that are from the area that come in. We have such a limited.
Let's do it. Keep going. You're good.
Okay, sorry.
You're good.
Did I step on your toes?
No.
Okay, I'm just confused. Ask people to come in and play for kids, and most people are more than willing to do so. We are very blessed at Monmouth Roseville that our school district pays them a salary. And it's paid by the school district. They fill out a timesheet like they're an employee of the school district. And just ask your administration, ask your superintendent to this is something that's very vital for what's best for kids, for the education of our kids. And the worst thing they can do is say, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. But you never know until you ask, and make those phone calls to churches and find those accompanists to come in and help your kids. You obviously are the instructor and you're the expert in the room, but those people, if they're a piano player, most of the time they're pretty good musicians, right? So they can help too. They know what a melody is. They know what dynamics are. They know articulations. They know these things. So I just constantly am asking people, hey, do you want to help us out? And they get paid $25 an hour to come in and help our kids. So I think one of the fears that we have is not asking people to help. And if we just ask, it's going to be beneficial. And we're very fortunate that we have a bunch of people that play the piano in Warren County, which is awesome. But I think a lot of people get scared to do that, and go find those people. Retired music teachers, I have found, are so they're glad to come in for a few weeks or a month or whatever, and then they're gone. Like, I'm good to do this for a few days, and then I don't have to teach anymore. But so that's what I wanted to say about the preparation thing, is get your accompanist.
Yeah, Steven asked me to just chime in a point I was going to make later. So in Kiwani, we're in a little bit of a desert. We're 45 minutes from everything, so I don't really have access to a lot of accompanists.
Only 45 minutes.
Only 45 minutes from everything, yeah. And so IHSA this year is allowing digital accompaniments for solos, and so I kind of created we have 2.5 fantastic percussionists, or accompanists, but that one,
the half.
Is that the half?
Yeah, that's the half that's missing in your school. Yeah.
So this year we're going to have a lot of our kids use those digital accompaniments. So I created a couple rules for when I'm picking those kids, and they're just super simple. So if the kid plays in measure 1, or if there is tempo changes while the kid is playing, they're going to get ready for a live accompanist. But if it, like, every section starts with a 4-bar piano and show the tempo stays the same throughout, those kids are probably getting a digital recording.
All right.
For guiding throughout, I heard you mentioning something about recording every week that it's time consuming to listen to.
Yep.
I don't want to bring up the philosophy of grading our kids, but when they record and send it in, is it feedback? Do they get graded on participation no matter how well they've done? Or are they graded on the accuracy of that section recording?
That's a great question.
That's
a better answer.
Kind of a mix of all of the above. So I would say a big chunk of the points is just completing it in a timely manner. We also have kind of a growth scale, because they'll have to perform, like the first chunk is due Friday, but then on the final one due March 1st or March 2nd, whatever. We're looking for that improvement, that growth. So right now, the one that's due tomorrow, if they turn it in on time and they play all the measures, they're going to get a lot of points. But that one March 2nd, we're going to be looking for that improvement, rather than, we're not going to tie them strictly to a 100-point playing rubric. There's a variety of elements there.
And I'll just add, from grading playing assignments, I don't generally do it with solo and ensemble. I think that what Alex is kind of getting at too is different students, the grade, the same, 2 different kids are not going to get the same grade for the same quality of performance, because those kids are coming from different places. And that's where, because we do solo and ensemble, we know more about what the kids can do. And also because it's a smaller community, and I've had the same kids for 7 years, and same for many of us around the table. You've been teaching 7 years, Lisa? 6. At least I had kids for 6 years. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? We're going to get one more point.
Do any of your students have to pay in, or have parents pay in to use accompanists?
I will speak for Princeton High School. Our junior high and our high school are separate districts, which is stupid. That's official, I'm saying. So super, I don't care. At the high school, we have done that, but effectively what we've done is we're asking them to do it, and again, we know the kids. If I know it's not going to happen, we're going to make it work. So yes, to an extent, we try to do everything we can to minimize it. I spend a lot of time talking to my high school music boosters about this is why we need to put some money towards this, because it's important to me. Anybody else want to share on that?
Yeah. For Rockridge, all entry fees, my normal school accompanist is all covered by the school, and then all the additional clinicians and accompanists are covered through our fundraising.
Do you guys have?
Yep. Our school pays for everything.
Yeah, same with Kiwani.
Yeah, our school pays for everything, so we're really, really, really blessed.
So when Kevin retires and anybody wants a choir job, everything's paid for.
8 years.
8 more years.
8 years.
Right. Anything else for a second? We've got one more point I want to make sure that we get to. Right. And this is ensuring a smooth performance day. This is just the kind of battle. No plan survives contact with the enemy, and in this case, the enemy is everything that can go wrong on the day. And I think Lisa and Curtis have some stuff on that.
So like most things in our profession, the best way to make sure it goes smoothly is to be prepared in advance. Check and double check your originals. Make sure the students' names are marked visibly with a Post-it note. If your organization requires Measures to be numbered, make sure they are. I will, if we have a book where there's 8 clarinets using it, I'll put an order of Susie is going at 8 o'clock, Art is going at 8:30, so they know who to pass it off to. For something Kevin does that I think is genius, if you have a large number of entries, he assigns a volunteer to be in charge of his originals in the homeroom. He has someone who just sits there and passes originals out to kids and collects them when they're done, pulls the sticky note out so we know we're done with that. And then just talking through the logistics of the day with your students beforehand. Make sure they know that they need to go and pick up those originals. Discuss introducing the piece. Decide if it's an ensemble, who's going to do that. Make sure they know how to pronounce Tchaikovsky. And then discuss acknowledging the audience after you perform, because there's nothing worse than a room full of people clapping and a teenager just walking off with a frown on their face. So just smiling, nodding their head, doing something to acknowledge your audience. And then making sure they know that they need to collect the originals to the judge or from the judge afterwards, and they might need a couple minutes to write their notes. And just keeping collected. If anything goes wrong in it, don't be talking about it in the room with the judge afterwards. Just all things happy while we're still in that room. And then make sure they know if they're going to be tuning with the piano beforehand. Do they know what note to do? Do they know how to do that? And then also have everything you would normally have for traveling with your group. Extra reeds, valve oil, Tide pens, safety pins, etc. I told Steven I feel hypocritical because I had to borrow a reed from him at my own school a few years ago. But that leads to another point. If you need something, ask. We host Solo and Ensemble. We are so happy to help you have the best day ever. And again, I, as the host, asked Steven for a reed, and he had one. So just ask if something comes up.
There's a Ziploc bag in my backpack right now with reeds, wood screwdrivers, valve oil, whatever else is in there. It doesn't leave.
Yep.
And that just in case.
Something that's IHSA and IESA specific that we do, the schedules they make don't say every student for the ensemble. It just says for and off at all. And we will rewrite a master schedule for our parents that says exactly who is in every ensemble, at what time, in what room, because the parents don't know who is in for and off at all. And our parents are very appreciative of that. And then also just make sure you and your students are getting sleep and drinking water beforehand so we don't have someone performing a solo after only having Monster Energy drinks the day before.
Everything she said, and then I'll just add a couple more things. Don't be afraid to use your accompanist as well. When I go to junior high contest, I have them carry all the original solo books so that I'm not worrying about a junior high kid finding it, losing it, or anything in between. I also accompany for all of my ensembles, and so I take the judges' copies for all of those. So don't be afraid to use your accompanist as you're going through the day.
Any other tips and tricks on that front? Megan?
And I'll just add from personal experience, if the Barry Sax is not working right before his solo, check to see if another student has dropped a bottle of Mountain Dew down the bell of the Barry Sax. Because then it doesn't play anything below an E, sorry. I think what will probably be the best use of our time is to move into the, do we want to go back to we have 5 minutes, I don't know.
I was like,
I don't. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they
so
can.
we're going to go ahead and take any more questions then. If there's anything else that has come up through this, we have a wrap-up slide, Phil, if you can go up to that. It has stuff on it. It has words on it.
There you go.
So is there any other, while we're together, any other questions that might be useful for the good of the order before we break this apart? Okay, awesome. Again, please, we're going to hang around for a little bit here.
I was just going to say, I know some people walked in late, and in case you didn't hear something, this microphone is recording the mom.
I have a mic. We have 4 minutes. We're good, man.
Okay. Oh, I don't want to take your time. Sorry.
Sorry. The Monmouth Roseville people have a podcast, Music in the Making. So we are recording this. So if you walked in late or you had another question, please, we're going to post this episode at the end of the conference. So if you missed something at the beginning, we'll have it online for you in case any of you want it. All right, if you have any questions.
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah.
What's the podcast?
Music in the Making. Sorry.
And again, please talk to us of anything you'd like to know, and thank you so much. Phil's got the presider phone. That was awkward. Amen.